Hello, everyone. Today, our lesson is about multimodal engagement. Let's begin with tonight's lesson with the lesson objectives. We have four objectives for tonight's lesson. One is to determine the application software that aid one in developing materials for communication. Second is to apply the techniques in manipulating the applications. Third is to evaluate the impact of technology upon various modes of communication. And number four is the use technology in communicating effectively. Okay, so let me begin my lecture with this statement. Creating multimodal texts prompts readers to be more skillful in acknowledging different from one mode to another. I know that we are very adept in using technology, especially you. You are considered to be digital natives and you have been exposed to making use of different applications online. And using multimodal text would really help you improve your presentation. So let us first define what modal text is. So a modal text includes picture books, textbooks, graphic novels, comics, and posters, where meaning is conveyed to the reader through varying combinations of visual, still image, written language, and spatial modes. So when you are reading a textbook, for example, you will not see their texts only, but also some illustrations, graphs, right? So these are the images that you will see there. If you are watching or if you are, observing or looking at a PowerPoint presentation, so PowerPoint presentation uses multimodal texts. For example, in this presentation, you can see text on the left side and on the right side, you can see an image. So there is a combination of symbols and still images. There is a need to know the purpose, audience, and genre to know what mode is exactly needed. So, for example, when you are conducting online lectures, we are going to use PowerPoint presentation, for example. Or if you are answering activities in the module, you will see their images, right? Pictures, for example. So, a combination of picture and text is called multimodal text. And on the video, when you are watching, sometimes we incorporate music, not only pictures, but also music, and it could also be video within the video. So you are making use of multimodal texts in your presentation. So people realize the importance of videos in sharing memories from still pictures to moving images. These moments are seen to extend meaning to the public. So this is very important because in this term, you will be asked to create your own video lecture on the topic that you have chosen. If you can still remember in the prelim, I gave you an output wherein you made a PowerPoint presentation of the selected topics, right? And out of that topic that you have prepared or that you have chosen and prepared PowerPoint presentation, you would be delivering it using an application online, be it OBS or Filmora or Power Director or Powtoon. So these applications can be used in creating your own um, video lecture that would incorporate the multimodal texts. That would include PowerPoint presentations, still images, and also the video that you can incorporate. Like what you can see now, you can see my video, right? And I'm giving a lecture. So this is the type of a multimodal text that you will be creating. Now, short films, trailers, and documentaries are some of those done by the students, faculty, and corporate individuals on a daily basis because meaning to them matters a lot. Of course, I will not ask you to prepare short films or trailers or documentaries, but for this particular term, I want you only to create a video lecture wherein you can incorporate their texts pictures or still pictures or even videos in your video lecture. So that would be fun, right? Now, one of the easiest in sharing stories is through digital storytelling. So, Digital Storytelling Association 2002 considers digital storytelling as a modern expression of the ancient art of storytelling. It uses digital media to create a media rich stories to tell, to share, and to preserve. So, maybe you have seen a lot of videos on YouTube, a documentary, for example, on certain topics. So, you would be able to see there how rich our um, the digital media is using the different forms of you know multimodal texts. Okay, now digital stories can be derived through weaving images, music, narrative, and voice together, thereby giving deep dimension and vivid color to characters, situations, and insights. According to Robin 2008, there are three categories of digital stories. First is personal narratives. Second is stories that examine historical events, and stories that primarily inform or instruct. So that's from Magan et al. 2018, or cited in Magan et al. 2018. So these are the different part or the different categories of digital stories. And again, as I have mentioned earlier, there are a lot of materials that you can see on YouTube and other media platforms wherein you can find digital stories, such as personal narratives, examining historical events. There are a lot, actually. If you are just um, adept in browsing on the internet and search for some websites that um, store this kind of materials, it would be easy for you. So I will give you a sample later on the group chat so that you will be able to see, and then that would be used also as reference in the future assignments that I may provide you. Media presentations have become commonplace wherever we go on the internet. Its necessity is drawn from the quality that simply makes any viewer very engaged with what's being viewed. It is prerequisite to all media activity involving the combination of narration, photos, video, music, and more. That's from Magan et al. 2018. If you may have noticed, a lot of documentaries which are being shared on YouTube and other social media platforms have incorporated music in their videos, and they are very engaging. They're very interesting because the music also matches the mood of the video. For example, if it's a happy video, the music is a little bit upbeat. But if the mood of the video is a little bit sad or melancholy, then the music also is similar or is kind of uh, yeah, it has adapted, or it adapts also the kind of mood that you are presenting, and also the photos, right, and also the narration. So these are important elements that we combine in creating our multimodal material to ensure that all the elements present in there are complementary to each other. It would be strange for a happy narration, for example, when the voice is sad, or in a very lively and upbeat presentation with with some songs or music that is sad. So that's why it should match, also the music should match the mood of the video as well as the narration itself, and so the photos that you are using. So these are all complementary in nature, right? And also the color combination, for instance. So the use of vibrant colors would signify also upbeat or happy mood, right? So, these are the characteristics of multimedia presentations. One, multimedia presentations are visually oriented, displayed on a monitor, or projected onto a screen. So, number one is it must be visually oriented. So, when you're creating a PowerPoint presentation, for instance, make sure that when you look at it, it's not um, it's not unpleasant to the eyes, that when you look at it, it's so nice, and pleasing to the eyes. So that's number one, because it must be very visually oriented. When you flash it on the screen, it can be seen clearly. Secondly, they allow users to use different modalities, such as the number one is text. Of course, when we are making PowerPoint presentation, the number one element that we can find there is the text, right? Because the text is the most important thing, especially in making PowerPoint presentation. But other than text, we also put graphics, okay? The graphics also would add life and meaning to the presentation, and then photographs. We also add pictures as well as audio, for instance. Okay, we may also incorporate audio, like what I'm doing now. This is a video lecture and there's an audio here. Animation, for example, the movement of the slides, so you can also add that. It could be the transition, or it could simply be the animation that you are adding, and even videos, because when you are giving lectures, you may also incorporate videos in your lecture, right? For instance, during the motivation part, or during the clincher part, or even in the middle part of your presentation, depending on which part you need to show the video, because that video perhaps is also an important part of your lecture. So combination or a mixture of all of these modalities will create a multimodal text or a multimodal output. Okay. Now, special features of computer-based presentation, such as custom navigation, such as linking or between slides to other media and to the internet, can be made into hard copy printouts or transparencies and can also be uploaded to the web. So have you noticed that in some presentations they put links, for example, of a certain material from a third-party application. Now, with the advancement of technology, speakers can make use of different third-party applications. For example, Padlet, um, a Kahoot, right? A Mentimeter, and many other platforms or third-party applications that they can use, that they can embed in their presentation so that it would become even livelier. So, and even YouTube links, for instance, if you are presenting on if you're presenting and have access to the internet while you're doing the presentation, you can just embed it in your presentation, and that would come in handy when you are already presenting your topic. Now, these are the steps in making effective multimedia presentation. So number one is to know the purpose of the presentation. So what is the purpose of the presentation? Is it merely to inform or instruct? Or is it to inspire? Is it to make people happy? So, different purpose would mean different way of presenting it. Of course, if you want to inspire others, you have to tell stories of inspiring people, right? If you want to crack a joke, then you have to create jokes. See to it that the listeners or the viewers would be able to relate to what you're saying. And if it is an instructional video, make sure that it is well researched and that you can provide inputs or information to your listeners or viewers. Know the audience. What is the population that you are trying to capture? Are they young people? So of course, when you are creating TikTok videos are very, very appealing to younger generation, right? But even older people are now doing TikTok. So knowing your audience will determine also the kind of platform that you will use, because I know that not everyone knows how to use a specific platform. So you have to do a little research to which demographic group will this particular platform is appealing to. Well, if I use Facebook, for example, will this appeal to the younger generation as well, or to the older generation only? So you have to know the demographics, gather information. So one thing that is very important in making a presentation or a multimodal text for that matter is to gather enough information, because it will make your presentation really substantial in accordance to the type of purpose that you have, and use a variety of resources such as textbooks, digital resources such as photographs, scanned images, student work, and internet. So you have to mix. You have to put a lot of modalities, as I mentioned. The pictures should also complement or match the text that you are putting in there. So I have seen a lot of PowerPoint presentations submitted to me during prelims, I mean, during the prelim, and I have realized that some of you really have this talent in making PowerPoint presentation because you were able to maximize the use of still images. And of course, the still images also matched with the texts that you type in there. So kudos to those who did that. Of course, we use the internet or student work, for example, if you are trying to present an example of a word or a sample of a word. Do not forget to cite sources. This is very important, especially when you are copying text or citing, um, references. It could either be found immediately after the statement borrowed or cited, or it could also be found in the reference section of your presentation. But the rule of thumb here is that when you borrow or copied a statement from the internet, never forget to cite the reference. That would free you from plagiarism, and that is one way also of respecting the original work of someone, or showing also your respect to that person, and then organize the information in a manner that it follows the sequence properly, because when you are making a presentation, it's just like you are storytelling, right? So when you are storytelling, you are unfolding events after events. So it should start from introduction, and then presentation, and then abstraction, and then application, and then clincher. So it has to follow certain steps or certain parts as you unfold the content of your presentation. And of course, you have to remember the technical issues, check the technical issues, because while you are recording it, you might encounter technical issues. So it's best that you study first the application or the software that you will be using, and then know the features, because the features of the application or the software that you will use will help you maximize the use of that platform or the use of that application or software for the betterment of the output. So for instance, as I told you, as your project for the midterm, you are going to create a video lecture of the topic you have chosen in the prelim. And using your PowerPoint presentation, you can still improve it for the purpose of making a video lecture. So you can incorporate pictures there, but see to it that the text is readable, and that make sure that the text also is clearly stated, and that it does not overwhelm the slide. So that's one thing that you have to remember. Of course, the picture should be complementary with that of the text, and your video must also be clear. So as much as possible, you have to position yourself in a comfy or in a comfortable place and free from noise, because these are the important elements in creating a really interesting, engaging, and informative video presentation. Of course, you have, in terms of technical issues, you have to make sure that the contrast is good, that if you're using a lighter background, then you can use the darker color for your text, right? Or if you are using darker or lighter text, then you can use also the darker background. So the contrast must be good. Of course, you can consider color wheel to find the contrasting colors that might help you decide on which color to use in your presentation. Also, use only one design and color scheme throughout the slide presentation. So it would make your presentation pleasing to the eyes if you use only one design, one color, and then scheme throughout the slide presentation. And avoid clutter. When you say clutter, it means that the text is spread all throughout. As much as possible, it can either be justified to the left or justified to the right or in the middle, provided that it does not spread everywhere. So in short, make sure that the presentation, especially the text, is properly placed, and that the pictures, if you may add pictures, they should also be placed in the area that it would not cover the text, or that it would complement the text. Because as I mentioned, pictures in the PowerPoint presentation are not only used to catch attention, they are used to complement the text itself, which means that the meaning of that text, which will not be, you know, taken directly, explicitly from the text can be implicitly, explained by the picture itself. So that's why it's very important that the picture should complement with the text. Okay. Also, you have to avoid patterned or textured backgrounds as much as possible, especially using like the lines, like the thin lines, for example, or squares or diamonds, because that can be, not so pleasing to the eyes. Because when you look at the presentation, it's not about the design of the presentation that matters, but the content of the presentation. And the content includes both the text and the picture itself, or it could be the video or the audio. So therefore, avoid designs that are too distracting for the viewers. Use large font size, minimum of 18 points, especially when you are, making a presentation like this. Of course, it depends on the size of the audience. If you are presenting live with the audience of 100 or 1,000 people, I think you have also to increase the font size. But if you're just preparing a presentation like this, I think making use of 30 to 32 font size would suffice. Use fonts that are easy to read. Don't use fancy fonts. In my case, I often use either Calibri, for example, and also this one is Tahoma. So I use Tahoma a lot. I also use what else aside from Tahoma? Maybe Century Gothic. I'll also use Arial. So these font designs or these fonts are very pleasing to the eyes and they are readable. So please avoid using fancy fonts. Instead, use readable fonts. Tahoma, Arial, Calibri, Century Gothic. So these are among the fonts that I'm using, which you can also make use of when you are preparing your presentation. And don't use more than two types of fonts as much as possible. I know that we are sometimes making emphasis on some statements, but avoid using a lot of font types as much as possible and avoid too much text. Do not copy the entire paragraph. That is why it's important to, present your your idea in bullet form in such a way the viewers or the listeners or the audience would be able to easily follow through your discussion. And use no more than 3 to 4 bullets per slide as much as possible. Here, as you can see, there are 3 bullets, right? So I made use of 3 bullets. 4 would be the maximum as much as possible, because if there are more than 4 bullets here, it would make your presentation overcrowded. It would crowd the entire slide. So, and it would no longer be um, pleasing to the eyes in as much as it can distract already the concentration of the audience. And you have to be creative. How can we be creative? Use transitions and animations to add interests, but don't overdo it. As I have mentioned earlier, you can make use of transition. There are a lot of nice transitions now on available on PowerPoint presentation. If you are good at making use of other applications such as Prezi. So I think Prezi also can, it's for more advanced users. So if you are good at making presentation, you can try other applications. Prezi is one of them. I use Prezi sometimes only if I make special presentations. I know that it's not easy to prepare considering that Prezi has certain features that you need to study and you need to master prior to the preparation. So you have to study those and adding animations, of course. But as I mentioned, do not overdo it because making use of a lot of animations might also, um, have it might have adverse effects on the viewers, especially those with stigmatism or some problems with the vision. So I think a lot of movements in your presentation might also distract them or even cause them headache. So that's why you have to be very careful with that. Okay. So that's the end of our presentation for today. So I'd like to say thank you so much for your active participation. I'm very happy that um, you're able to listen to this lecture. And as your assignment, don't forget to prepare a reflection paper for our topic for tonight. And for your project for the midterm, you are going to make a video presentation of the topic you have chosen in prelim. So you will make use of the same PowerPoint presentation, and you can enhance it if you want based on the suggestions that I have given here in our lecture. And also you can incorporate some video, some audio, still images that would make your presentation even more presentable. And of course, you can incorporate also transitions if you want, and some animations. And if you're using more than one fonts or two fonts, it's about time that you decrease the number of fonts you are using, and also make sure the contrasting colors of both the background and the text, so that your presentation would be pleasing to the eyes of the viewers. Thank you so much for listening, and hope to see you next week. Bye bye.